Which Side Podcast is a proud member of the Which Side Media Collective.
This is episode 73.
Yeah, we talk with Jamie Foley of skepticalvegan.com.
You go to his website, he does lots of awesome research on aspects of animal rights and veganism in a way that, you know, a lot of people don't get to see. It's really awesome from a critical thinker standpoint.
Yeah.
What events do we have going on this week?
You can check out all of our events at Whichside Podcast. Just click on the events tab.
That would be whichsidepodcast.com/events if you want to type out the whole thing.
Yeah.
Who types out everything anymore?
I don't know. People probably just Google Whichside Podcast events.
Do you know what I love? I love it when you see somebody go to Google and then type in a website address.
With
HTTP,
the .com.
And the .com, everything. You're just like, really?
Yeah. I know people that do that.
Yeah,
My father's one of them.
My father is one of them as well.
Okay.
April 2nd, 1969. 21 Black Panthers charged with conspiracy to kill cops. That's from a slingshot.
Yeah, you don't hear about that shit anymore.
No, not too much.
No.
If you like these every week, get a slingshot personal organizer from a local info shop. If you don't have a local info shop, start one. If you don't want to start one, buy one from one you can find online, like AK Press or others. Is that it?
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Listen to the show. It has people talking.
Enjoy. Hello.
Hello?
Hey guys.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Jeremy, by the way.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Jordan.
We got a lot of J's today.
That is a lot of J's. Wonder what the probability of that is.
Probably not very high. Like 1 in 26.
I don't know. Never good at math.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't want to break out math.
That's how many letters are in the alphabet.
Yeah, but the probability would be a lot different because it'd have to do with how many names there are.
Not a lot of
based on region.
Not a lot of X names.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. 1 in 25 and a half.
Oh, no.
So anyway, sorry.
Sorry, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you guys?
I'm doing all right. So, what brought you to the skeptic side of things?
It's looking back, it's probably something I've always been interested in, but my dad was a huge conspiracy theorist, and so I got exposed to everything from alternative medicine to like the government blew up the Oklahoma City building to aliens are controlling this and that, and
Aren't all those true?
Along with gay Jews running the government apparently. And so I just got exposed to a lot of that, and growing up looking more into it, once you find the credible sources on a lot of that stuff, you'll find like a lot more of the skeptic literature. And so I just got deeper and deeper into stuff like that. Plus I always loved stuff like watching the Bigfoot stuff and alien stuff on TV. And I guess as you grow up and look more into it, you know, you learn a little bit more.
So here's my question. This is something I run into all the time. Why are so many people that are vegan not critical thinkers when it comes to other things?
You know, I'm not sure. There's this concept called crank magnetism, where you'll find like 9/11 conspiracy theorists usually believe in aliens or they believe in alternative medicine. Basically, if someone believes in one crazy idea, they're more likely to believe in a lot of other ones. And I feel that not everyone's coming to veganism for like just purely secular animal rights reasons. A a lot of people are coming to it for more spiritual reasons, things to do with health and stuff. I mean, I noticed that most vegans have, not most, but a large number have an obsession with health food to the point of it being unhealthy. And so I think it's largely this obsession with health food and with the food industry trying to poison everyone, that gets a lot of vegans into that area. But I don't know, a lot of them are also against like a lot of like Western medicine, I find, and some of that's a practical aversion. I meet some vegans who are anti-vaccination because they don't like the fact that there's eggs in it. But then there's others who are straight up on big pharma conspiracies and that it's Bill Gates trying to lower the world's population.
Yeah.
Well,
Isn't that true?
Maybe.
Yeah, like I've always gotten into tons of arguments, especially like when you say like Western based, I usually say evidence based medicine.
That's true.
True. Like most medicine, if it's evidence based, is gonna work. That's just what the evidence shows. So like we run into this with like some of our guests, even like a week ago, where it's like we don't want to step on their toes, but at the same time we're like holding this little bit of line. Like one of my biggest pet peeves is homeopathic medicine.
Oh gosh,
because there's nothing fucking in it.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's trace amounts apparently.
So a little while back, there was actually a protest at Whole Foods over their selling of homeopathy, and we did a homeopathic overdose. Mixed up a giant batch of what should have been homeopathic sleeping medication, and just downed like cupfuls of it. So that was actually pretty fun.
I've seen James Randi do that on stage. I've
seen that too. I avoided taking the pills. Unfortunately, they have lactose in them.
Okay.
Probably the only thing in there to hold them together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that's the reason why they're sometimes not vegan. But yeah.
So how do you approach people like about it? Because I get kind of just angry and be like, "You're a fucking idiot."
Sometimes it's that. Other times, it's best to more engage people on the wonder of science. Try and engage them on something where you have common ground. I mean, some people just completely don't care about science at all, and they think it's like a huge sham. But if you can find an area of science where you guys can start talking about it, this new research is pretty cool and stuff, then you might be able to have a little in. But you can never have a conversation with someone about something like homeopathy or a big conspiracy theory and really expect to come out of that conversation with anything good. The best you can do is plant a small seed and hope that it grows over a few months.
I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people, especially with homeopathy. Yeah, can't even talk. Yeah. But it always just drives me insane because one, they're more expensive than normal, just like a fever reducer, and there's nothing there.
Oh yeah. And when I ride my bike around here, I see we have veterinarians that do homeopathy and acupuncture on your pets too.
I will say this: I like going for acupuncture. Not because of anything, except it gives me 15 minutes or a half hour of alone time where I can just sit there and do nothing.
But you could get that without the needles in your back.
Oh yeah, totally, but it's just a good excuse.
Yep.
I mean,
because it does nothing.
If you understand what it is and everything, then yeah, that's perfectly fine. The problem is when people are saying it's going to cure cancer and stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's totally ridiculous. if you like tiny little sugar pills, I mean, some people do like those like candy. So
I am also a big, I'm a supporter of the placebo effect. If it fucking works, it works too. But
I think the placebo effect is dangerous.
Not like if there's a false sense of reality with it. Like if you think that it's actually going to do something, but if it works for you, I don't know. Does that make sense?
But there's so many people it doesn't work for. By saying that, you're basically saying it's okay to, take this scam medicine.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And the placebo effect, it's the way it's been portrayed in popular culture. We kind of have a misunderstanding of it. We have this idea of that just because you believe that something's going to work, your body actually does something that then cures the thing. Whereas the placebo effect is actually a collection of multiple different effects, such as regression to the mean. If you have a cold that's only going to last a couple days anyways, and you do something, you're going to get better anyways. And that's not your body healing yourself, but that would still be put under the placebo effect. So the placebo effect is, you can't really rely on it for healing. So I would, but there is a debate in evidence-based medicine of whether for doctors to prescribe placebos where they know that medically there's nothing they can do and that may relieve stress. And that's an ethically iffy area, but in those places, I could see, the possibility of placebos having a place in medicine.
I find that unethical. I'm on that side of it.
I would lean towards that side as well, but if I would have to see if it could actually help someone. But yeah, it seems really unethical.
Sure. It just seems like maybe on that off chance there's nothing left that you could possibly ever do, and there's just the last ditch effort, maybe. But how often are you in that situation?
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
Yeah. So, what brought you to veganism?
Well, I went vegetarian about when I was 13. I don't particularly remember the exact impetus for it. I know I was reading a lot of different philosophy at the time. I was a really nerdy kid, and I was actually homeschooled, so I just got to chose what I read all the time. And I was reading a lot of Greek philosophy, and I was reading one philosopher who started talking about animals, and I think it just clicked for me. It was something that was always there, and I realized, yeah, I don't want to hurt animals, and there's no reason to. And then I didn't eat meat for 5 years, and then when I went vegan, it was only after meeting another vegan and realizing that this is actually a thing, other than just a joke on The Simpsons. And once I met him, I kind of made the decision to go vegan, and except for some short periods of freeganism that were made necessary by my living conditions at a certain point, I've been vegan ever since.
So homeschooled.
Yeah, my dad, as I told you, he's a conspiracy theorist. He pulled me out of school in 6th grade. He was really scared of the.
Was it the gay Jews?
No, something about the HPV vaccination that they were mandating was going to make kids sick, or was like mind control. Like, he had some crazy pamphlets. So yeah, he actually pulled me out of school because he was an anti-vaxxer, and he was a trucker by trade, so he'd be working 12-hour days, and so I just stayed at home, and he would buy me whatever books I wanted from the used bookstore. And so I got into reading a lot of philosophy. I got into Marx early on and Emma Goldman early on. And I think it was, probably my politics probably influenced my move towards veganism as well, as an issue of justice and equality.
So what's your relationship with him now?
I have not talked to him in over a year or two. He just, every time we talked, he would go off on some new crazy conspiracy. The last one was Mexico going to invade the U.S. or something. So Yeah, it was when like the drug cartel stuff was flaring up on the border.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I mean, he maybe had something to fear there because he lives in Texas, but yeah, he was actually thinking the Mexican army invading the U.S. and all this stuff. But I mean, he was a big Y2K nut. He dedicated 2 whole rooms of our house to Y2K preparedness supplies.
Wow.
And yeah, like 50-gallon drums of rice.
Sound like every
beans.
Mormon family around me.
We had. Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, that was and that was one of the things. He raised me with a very syncretic approach to religion. He was a very conservative Christian, but would read more than just the Bible. He read the Book of Mormon and had me read it growing up. And it was actually interesting. I had never met any Mormons, but I knew the whole thing about Indians supposedly being the descendants of Israelites, and my dad taught me that. So it was interesting when I learned about Mormonism, finding out, oh, that's where he got that from.
You know more than most Mormons.
It's Lamanites, by the way, not Israelites. Let's just get the record clear here.
But you do know more than most Mormons, unfortunately.
I know way too much about this.
Truthfully, I have a little bit of a weird Mormon obsession. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now where I have a Captain Moroni action figure standing up there with the banner of liberty. On my bookshelf, I have a English and German Book of Mormon.
I almost spit out my tea at that.
I've read Tennis Shoes Among the Nephites, if you've ever heard of that.
I've seen it on many bookshelves.
I've seen it.
I've actually always wanted to visit Salt Lake.
Well, both me and Jordan were raised, extremely LDS. Yeah.
Oh,
so
I mean, that's
ask away.
I find it an interesting religion to study because of how basically new it is. You can really get a look at the founders of it. And because I was raised in a similarly very conservative Christian environment, like studying Mormonism helped me come to terms with and understand a lot of my own religious upbringing, I think.
Really, what was the connection between the two?
I think just simply being able to actually historically examine the origins of Mormonism made me better able to understand the historical origins of Christianity. I guess it's harder to explain, but yeah.
No, I can see that. Yeah, it's a very weird religion to grow up into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know what else to add to that.
Very faith based, and they enforce the faith. So, and they tell you not to read things that could hinder your faith.
They even tell you not to study the church's history because it could hinder your faith.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I actually had I invited a couple missionaries in one time and ended up giving them some vegan pamphlets and trying to talk to them about the word of wisdom and stuff. I think
wow,
I think
you do
I
know a
actually
lot.
ended up knowing more about a lot of this stuff than they did. They were just like, Yeah,
it gets really bad when you start quoting Doctrine and Covenants to them.
Yeah. Eat meat sparingly and only in times of winter and famine.
Be pleasing unto me. Yeah.
I was like, does it look cold outside?
When was the last famine?
So I get a kick out of conspiracy theory. It must be a lot different, like growing up with it. But like in prison, there was a lot of people who were just weird about it. Like they thought that there's aliens controlling the government and that they have like a UN here in the United States and that they're kidnapping Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and all sorts of stuff. I'm like, where's the evidence for this? What was that?
Wow, that's pretty deep.
Yeah, it was interesting to talk to them. They're like, yeah, I'll give you the papers my dad sent me. And every day I'd ask, and they never showed them to me. I wanted that evidence. 'Cause I wanted to believe.
I want to believe.
Want to believe.
But isn't that like the heart of like all science is like just the thirst for knowledge,
Yeah.
like and being willingness to accept where the results take you?
Well, yeah, I think that I think a lot of people that get into a lot of that stuff, they largely were just curious and just had bad information to go on, or maybe didn't have the best instruction and critical thinking skills. But I know that like a lot of the people that are into like a lot of conspiracy stuff that I meet, they're really smart people. Especially like you run into some of the 9/11 truther engineers and stuff. Like they can run circles around me. But yeah, I think that there's definitely a difference between intelligence and critical thinking.
Yeah. So like one of the best things that I've seen for at least in my life is my daughter's really into the new Cosmos series, and she when after the first episode where it went into the multiverse theory, that really struck her. Like she's like, there's somebody just like me in another universe because there's enough particles out there to create that. Like it really blows her mind. It's like really interesting to watch this 7-year-old. Like she's like, well, would they be considered aliens then? Like it's absolutely fantastic. One of the things I noticed that you wrote in your blog was that you're a big fan of the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe.
Yeah.
And I am as well. I listen to it, very religiously. And just a little bit ago, they talked about veganism a little bit, and I was actually kind of disappointed about how they talked about it.
Yeah, I was too. I looked at that, and I think I even sent one of them an email. The thing is, none of them on the show are even vegetarian. Rebecca sometimes uses the label vegetarian. She's actually a pescatarian.
Yeah.
I felt that, I mean, she did an okay job trying to defend some points, but it was a little disappointing. And the thing is, I've run into attitudes like they had on the show a lot in skeptic circles. If I have one more skeptic like mention the restaurant at the end of the universe and what about the cow that wants to be eaten to me, I'm going to scream. Like I mean, it's weird. It's an area where skeptics, like really good skeptics, all of a sudden fall into logical fallacies, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, but like multiple times I've heard, what if everyone went vegetarian overnight? What would we do with the cows? I just don't think that that's a very rational way to approach it for a skeptic who would approach any other issue pretty rationally, I would think.
Yeah, and I think they did a kind of a poor job of saying, that these are actual, logic fallacies. Like, yeah.
No, on a few episodes earlier, I believe Bob, they're asking what do you think science should move away from?
Oh yeah, I remember this.
And he mentioned animal testing. Of course, they got around to the.
Well, they jumped on him really quickly for saying that.
Not medical testing, but cosmetic testing and stuff. But yeah, there seemed to even be a little disagreement there.
Well, he at first even said we should try to get away from medical, I believe, and then they kind of jumped down him, and he's like, well, obviously not right away, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked by that, but I was kind of glad that at least he's actually out there saying we really should be getting away from this.
Well, I mean, there's definitely folks in the skeptics movement that are pretty dismissive of the stuff, but there's even other folks that aren't even vegan themselves. They're definitely a lot more supportive, and like Michael Shermer right now has been talking a lot about speciesism, and even using the word speciesism, and talking about not eating animals while still eating animals sometimes himself. But I feel that of anyone in the skeptics movement, Michael Shermer is probably at least getting the message out there to more people.
So do you think it what am I trying to say? I think there's so many people that give vegans a bad name by being so accepting of like the things we talked about before. I don't know how to combat it.
I think for one is to remind others that it's not a monolithic subculture, and that not everyone arrives at veganism for the same reasons. And I think it's really just best to explain to them why you believe what you believe, rather than to necessarily try and disprove the other folks. I don't know. That's the thing. I've been doing this for years, and my success rate with like talking to people and getting them to come around on an issue is pretty low. I think the best we can do is give people the right critical thinking skills and point them to the right information. And just like with getting many people in your life to go vegan, it's not going to happen right away. A lot of times it takes being their friend for a few years and little nudges over the years, and eventually it'll happen.
Yeah. I was just thinking about how many times I've been yelled at for talking about GMOs, or how many times I've been yelled at for those random, like, it just, I don't know, drives me fucking insane.
Yeah, I know. I get really frustrated sometimes too. That's why I do most of my stuff online. So yeah, there's a little bit of that.
So what's like the craziest thing you've ever like come across, like craziest conspiracy theory you've heard?
I gotta say, Morgellons is right up there. Have you heard of that one?
No.
So this one, gosh, I believe it started in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s. It was basically, it was this mom that noticed her kid like got a skinned knee or something, and as sometimes happens with wounds, fibers got stuck in there.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's this entire movement that believes that there's these fibers that are either living beings, nanobots, aliens. I've even heard like living fibers of BT cotton, that there's just these fibers that will embed themselves in people's skins, and they get this disease called Morgellons, where these fibers grow out of their skin. And it seems to be mainly driven by people with stress conditions where they do a lot of scratching and get scabs, and then from clothing and other items, they pick up the stuff. So, I mean, that's the thing when you ask about the craziest thing, the line between irrationality and mental illness, I think, starts to break down in many areas, and so it can be tricky on deciding what topics to engage, either with people or even when writing my blog, such as there's the idea of gang stalking, which may be even crazier than that, which is people believe that there's government agents, or actually that pretty much all of society is in on this. Government agents will just pay your neighbors, your family members, people who've known you for years, and they'll follow you around using one-handed sign language. And the point isn't necessarily to spy on you, it's to drive you crazy. And I've realized that everything I've studied about this, it seems that it's a product of mental illness and not just conspiracy theories. So that's one of the things I've chosen not to engage, and I won't engage folks like that. If someone leaves a comment like that on my blog, I just delete it. So I think there's certain areas that you need to know to not engage, and just realize people need help, and if you can, direct them towards that help.
Where do you draw that line between mental illness and just not being able to be a critical thinker?
As I said, it's really hard. It usually goes from person to person, and since I'm mainly engaging with people online, it can take me a little while. But if I start to pick up on the fact that someone is more than just disagreeing and is going off on the deep end, then I'll usually just back off and break off communication. Early on, I didn't do that, and I engaged engaged with people to the end, regardless who they were, and I realized it's just not productive, and that in many cases it's better to just leave a last comment, just with a very simple message saying you understand their position and everything, and if possible, a link to local mental help if possible. Like when I used to engage Morgellons folks, there was an organization that would like give therapy and stuff, and sometimes I'd leave links to that, but I've even stopped doing that. I just don't feel it's productive.
How have people received your work on your blog?
It's definitely gotten more popular over the years. I've actually been surprised at some of the positive support I've received. I've met a lot of people that I didn't realize how many other skeptical vegans were out there through my blog. And yeah, obviously you contacted me to be on your podcast through it. I've gotten a few like personal emails of thanks from people that have like family members who are dealing with something like going through cancer and like a battle with them over using alternative medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are the ones that like touch me the most. I've only gotten a few, but like the very serious personal emails that I get, like really thanking me for like, a certain article, that's what really keeps me going.
What really, I've known about your blog for a while, but what really interested me in it was we had a guest on who talked about homeopathic medicine, and then later sent us to a link for something unrelated to an article on your blog. And I was like, kind of like, well, you believe in this, but you also are very aware of what these other people their work is like. It just seemed really fucked to me. I don't know how else to say it. So
well, I was going to ask, are there any, you say you're into the Skeptical's Guide to the Universe, the podcast, are there any other shows that you're into that have like a skeptic stance, or even on the opposite side, like Dr. Oz or something, that you just watch because of the absurd things that come out of his mouth?
I like listening to The Reality Check. It's another skeptic podcast from the Ottawa Skeptics in Canada. Pretty good one. Skeptoid is good because it's like short little 10-minute episodes on just one topic, and they're really good for like sharing with family members or such. And I listen to Monster Talk because I love cryptozoology, and that's a skeptical cryptozoology podcast. And for my stuff more on the other side, I listen to a whole slew of Mormon and ex-Mormon podcasts as well.
I know Jordan really follows ex-Mormon stuff.
Yeah, I do. It's kind of my secret pleasure as well.
Yeah, well, every now and then I'll listen to the there's Mormon stories, and they do they'll often like do a report back from conference and stuff. So I'll listen to that and stuff, but don't have as much time these days.
I listened to the Tom Phillips episode where he's talking about the lawsuit that he was filing, and then I listened to Infant on Thrones is another podcast that's like an ex-Mormon podcast. They had him on as well. Those were
okay. I haven't heard that one. I normally the Expositor is probably the main ex-Mormon one I listen to.
The which one?
The Expositor. It's a play.
I'm not familiar with
the
that
play
one.
On the.
I kind of stay away from most of the ex-Mormon stuff.
It's just kind of fascinating when you grow up in it and you learn the history. It's crazy to me.
I could actually see how it could be more fascinating to someone from the outside like me than someone who had to like have it shoved down their throat all the time.
Well, you'd be surprised at like what most members don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I was raised in it very strictly. To give you an idea, like how strict, my mom's going to women's conference tonight. Like it's, but you know, I could sit down and talk to so you sound pretty familiar with Mormons. My dad's in the stake presidency, right?
Yeah.
So that's, as far as like Mormon culture, that's relatively high up in the local organization. But I can talk to him about it, and he doesn't even know half the shit.
Yeah. Well, he should read the CES letter.
I mean, I think that, you know, it's similar for a lot of religions, but yeah, I was finding that when I would talk to Mormons every now and then, it seems many are not even aware of like the plurality of gods like thing. You know, a lot of like maybe the older Brigham Young stuff that the church has tried to distance themselves from.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little strange.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really know. They know like bits and pieces of the church struggles after Joseph Smith died, between the battling of who was going to take over between Brigham Young. They don't really like know too much about it. Like, it's taught in a very whitewashed fashion.
I actually think it would be a much more interesting church if they would just embrace, you know, some of their history. Maybe not so much, you know, all the polygamy and stuff, but, you know,
they'd be like,
think,
yeah,
you know,
we believe in dowser rods.
I don't know, they just seem more like whitewashed Protestants nowadays. Like, they actually had some pretty cool, interesting beliefs in there.
I feel bad for the actual missionaries that go out, because they're just young kids that don't know anything.
I always make a point to like say hey to them when I see them, and like have a nice day, or if they come by the door, to invite them in for a drink of water or a cookie or something. Like, yeah, I feel so bad for them. Like, they're just pushed into that, and it's kind of, I guess in Utah, for if you're living in a heavily Mormon area, it's a benefit for you to go on mission.
Yeah,
but it feels like
it's a huge benefit.
It's putting off your education or your, you know, career goals, you know, otherwise. But yeah, it's.
But it'll actually help you.
It actually will boost your career here.
Yeah, like, you served Oh, you were gone for 2 years? Was it on a mission?
Yeah.
I read that your likelihood of getting married when coming back, if you don't serve a full mission, is pretty low. So yeah, I can understand the reasons why so many go on mission.
Here's a really interesting side story for you. So my old barber told me, he wasn't LDS, but he told me that when he opened up his barber shop, he had to learn the secret handshake they do in the temple, because when people would come in, he would shake their hands that way, just because it made them so they would come back. Like, he never got repeat business until then, but just that when he shook their hand in that way, it was like, oh, you're a temple Mormon, that means I'll go to your business.
I actually remember reading something a little while back about like advertising in Utah, and it was about how in print ads that it's a benefit if you can see the garment lines beneath the clothing, so that you can tell that basically, like, maybe in like a JC Penney catalog or something, that you could actually tell that someone's wearing their garments underneath the clothes that they're modeling, and that was actually, you know, a good selling point, or that it was basically a psychological trick for advertising to Mormons.
I've never heard that, but that makes a lot of sense.
It makes a ton of sense, because
it's one of those trick things that I've learned, is that you're always on the lookout for it. Like, if you see someone who's in their 30s or 40s and you don't see a garment line, you're like, okay, you're cool. Like, that's like your first instant. It's truthful. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I could actually see that if I ran into someone my age who had garment lines. But like, okay, you're a square.
What I'm surprised by is how many Mormons I've known that like go to church every week. They go to the temple and they totally don't believe, but it's the culture and community aspect of it, because it's so pervasive here.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I feel it's that way to a degree in the South too, with the churches. I mean, there's just some areas where it's just where religion is so prevalent. It's a survival, mechanism. You won't have any friends. You won't have job prospects. So I can kind of understand.
So speaking of religion, what do you feel about like the Loving Hut and vegan based things like that? Like that, what is it, like a cult kind of thing?
Not kind of. I would say they're a cult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that Supreme Master Ching Kai is a cult leader. It's I wouldn't go as far to completely boycott them, but I wouldn't go to a Loving Hut unless I absolutely had to. I would go to the liquor store next door and like buy and buy some like sweet spicy chili Doritos or something first.
I know Jordan. I've never been to a Loving Hut. I know Jordan's been.
Yeah, I've been to one.
Also, I'm not a big fan of the food. I mean, it's different in every location, but
Yeah.
the one I went to, I wasn't a fan of the food. But yeah, that one, it definitely worries me because of how big it is, and I know that like most folks I've talked to tend to brush it off and be, well, because of how big it is, she's having such a big influence for the animals, and I'm just not sure that that's necessarily true. It does seem that she's gotten a good number of people to go vegan, but I don't know how long that's necessarily going to last for them.
Like, what's the backlash going to be when they finally are like, "Oh yeah, I've been in a cult."
Yeah, and like having veganism associated with such a large cult is not really going to be helpful to spreading it ultimately, because the people who are going to want to join her cult, it's going to be a fairly small percentage in the end. Ultimately, we need to be able to appeal through secular values so that we can appeal to anyone. But yeah, Ching Kai definitely worrying to me. I'm not a fan of her at all.
One of my favorite vegan restaurants when I was a little bit younger, it was called Park Ivy. It was here in Utah. And I didn't know much about the owners until all of a sudden one day we went to go there and it was closed, and someone's like, "Oh yeah, they're in a cult. They all had to move to Colorado." I was like, "What?" I have no idea if it was the same people or not.
Do you know what the cult was?
No, I have no idea. That was, 97, I believe, when they closed. 98 when they closed. Yeah, so it was a long time ago.
It was a bummer. They had vegan ice cream.
They did. They had a vegan soft serve ice cream bar. Like, it was...
Oh, gosh.
God, it was amazing. Yeah.
That's the thing. Some cults have really good food. Like, there's the not Loving Hut necessarily, but the what is it? The African Hebrew Israelites down in Atlanta and Chicago. Their soul food is really good.
I'm not familiar with this cult.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it grew out of the Black nationalist movements and the Civil Rights movement, and what it was like British Israelism. It's African Israelism, and they basically believe that Africans are the direct descendants of the Israelites, and they've even like broken it up into, okay, this tribe is this country, this tribe is this country, and so basically Africans are God's chosen people, and at one point, part of the group made an exodus from the U.S. To go live in Israel, where much of the group lives today. And I mean, they've got some strange belief. They're polygamist, and definitely in their communities, the children are they're socially isolated, and like strict gender norms are imposed. Women can't wear pants. And a lot of other, kind of pretty strict religious rules. I wouldn't say that, it's the worst of the worst, but it's definitely another concerning one to me.
So where are you from, and what's veganism like there?
Well, right now, I'm living now in Oakland, California, and it's a mecca out here.
Oh yeah.
We've got almost everything you could ask for, except for Ronald's Donuts.
I love. I mean,
yeah.
God, Ronald's is amazing.
See, that's the thing. You don't even have to say where it is.
Yeah.
Like half the vegans you talk to, they know the name.
If you don't know the name, you know you haven't been vegan long enough. You're like, oh, you're like less than 2 years, whatever. Like,
and when people are shocked at the fact that we'll drive to Las Vegas to get some fucking donuts, it's like, what? Really?
Well,
yeah.
I'll actually be going to Vegas for a skeptics conference this summer and stuff,
sweet.
and that's probably. Yeah, that's the thing I look forward to every time. Like pretty much every morning, go out, get huge boxes of donuts for all the vegan skeptics, bring them back.
Is that the James Randi one?
The amazing meeting.
Yeah. I've always wanted to go to that.
Oh, you should. I organized a vegan skeptic meetup there. It's real fun.
Yeah, it seems.
When is it?
It's July. I want to say around July 12th, something around there.
Right around my birthday. Jordan, pay for me to go.
Yeah, if I had the money.
Have you tried the Win since they've had their new vegan menus?
Every year I've been meaning to go up there, and the hotel where the conference at is way off of the strip, so I've just never made it up there. I've tried a bunch of other places in Vegas, but I've never made it up to the Win. I wanted to. This next year, I need to just go there and just walk from restaurant to restaurant and just like spend hours.
They have like an $8 cheeseburger, right?
Yeah, and it comes with a chocolate milkshake and fries for $8.
Oh god.
Yeah.
They also have. I was gonna say they have I think it's a 3 or 4 course black truffle vegan meal that's like $85 too.
Oh my gosh.
Pick your poison. Yeah, it was. We were going to like Johnny Rockets and crap like that, and I really wish that I would have known about the options there. I knew that the Win had options. I just didn't really. I thought it was all going to be expensive. I didn't realize there was like an $8 option.
My first year, I didn't think the city was too vegan friendly, but now like it rivals Oakland. I feel like in how many options you have. It's just you can't go anywhere in the daytime.
Yeah.
So,
I know a lot of people credit Win for a lot of that because I mean it wasn't even like 6 years ago. It was terrible.
Yeah, now like there's like a cheesesteak place right across from the hotel that does like giant vegan cheesesteaks.
Is that Red Velvet does cheesesteaks, don't they?
It was called something else, but I found that was really convenient. I just last year I just found so many options. I was amazed at how much good vegan food you could find there.
It's really getting better, and I'm glad.
Even like especially just on the strip area, because I remember when the only thing was like a Chipotle.
Yeah,
on the strip. But now, I mean, there's a Red Velvet inside the Fashion Mall. Yeah, right there. Mm-hmm.
Well, I've never tried Red Velvet. Check it out.
It's not all vegan. It's really vegan friendly.
Yeah,
okay.
They have a good like taco salad that I like.
It's a lot of like wraps and things, but they have lots of cakes that are vegan.
That's the main thing. I think they're mainly a bakery.
Yeah.
Hence the name Red Velvet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what brought you to Oakland?
Actually, I left home. I was 18. Just had some pretty big disagreements with my family, and so from 18 to 21, like I hitchhiked and hopped trains like back and forth in the South, and I ended up getting a ride with a trucker from like West Texas all the way out to LA, and heading on up to the Bay. And once I got here, I decided to stay because Food Not Bomb serves every day. So free vegan meals every day is pretty good.
Yeah.
And just end up, working my way off the streets, getting a job and stuff. And yeah.
I've never hopped a train before. What entails in actually hopping on a train?
It was pretty simple. Like, I never did it with anyone else. Just find a train yard, sneak under the fence, wait for a train to be stopping, and jump on it and find somewhere to hide. It was really just like learning by the seat of my pants. I had a crew change guide, and I would go on Google to see where the tracks led, and I didn't have anywhere particular to be necessarily. So yeah.
So how long did you do that? Like hop around and do that?
It was close to 3 years or so, just going back and forth between like Georgia and Texas.
Holy shit!
So how do you like know the differences between the trains? Like I heard that there's like the skeleton or the
like suicide trains.
Yeah. You don't want to ride on, and there's other ones like that. I've heard horror stories, and it's always scared the shit out of me, so I don't want to even risk it.
Well, those are, you're probably talking more of the ones that run through like the Southwest or whatever. I did like hop on the wrong train every now and then. I hopped on one train thinking I was going to Georgia and ended up in Tennessee. Just because I didn't, really check too hard. And I mean, in general where the tracks are going. So you know that, okay, I'm going to go to this city, or that city. And only like twice did I ever like get taken somewhere where I wasn't expecting. And it wasn't bad. But really, I had no guarantees. As I said, it was just by the seat of my pants. I was young, dumb, and homeless.
So was it just an adventure to have an adventure, or did you have like more purposes in your traveling?
It was an adventure to have an adventure, to avoid employment, to get away from my family. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
makes sense to me.
Makes no sense. So, do they still have the hobo code where they put like graffiti, so you know like where to go and like where you? I know there's an old hobo code that would be like, if you stop here, you might get raped, or they'll stab you here.
Well, yeah. Well, I was hopping trains. Like I read a lot of like the old like books about hobos, and I learned about the old hobo code. But I never saw like the codes used anywhere. I knew what they looked like, and at least I knew what like a number of the signs looked like. And I never saw them used anywhere. I mean, you're more likely to see just like modern graffiti on the trains.
Yeah.
So,
I really like the romanticized idea of a hobo code, though.
It was an interesting history. You should read Hobo by Eddie Joe Cotton. That's a pretty good one, I found.
So back to like vegan skepticism. Do you know of any things that are like animal rights but are false and commonly accepted within our movement?
I would say that the way that animal research is often presented, I feel, is a bit pseudoscientific. The message I often hear is that it's wholly ineffective and harmful. And while I do understand like Dr. Ray Greek's arguments surrounding some of that, even he admits that there actually is a scientific role for animal testing. So I feel that in that case, it's much better to argue as an ethical issue than a scientific issue, because right now I don't feel that vegans necessarily have the science on their side that it's something that's wholly ineffective. We need to be able to admit to working researchers who actually understand what they're doing. that, okay, we understand that, yes, you're doing something that you believe is effective, but there are ethical reasons why we oppose this. Because when we use bad science arguments, I mean, I'm friends with a number of scientists online, and I see them like easily like tear a lot of that stuff apart. And definitely, I mean, really, the areas where vegans get into pseudoscience is more on other food politics issues. I don't find a whole lot of pseudoscience surrounding like just animal rights itself, because it's an ethical issue more than a scientific position. Maybe the idea that we're naturally herbivores is another one I run into a lot that I think is just plain false. We need to come to terms with our evolutionary history, but realize that evolution obviously does not dictate what we need to or can eat now.
Is that the whole teeth thing?
Yeah, teeth. The fact, the length of our gut and everything. I think biologically we're omnivores, but that's good news. An omnivore can eat anything.
Yeah.
But I think though, on the other side, that there still is definitely debate over like the protein fat like brain hypothesis and stuff like that. Although I think other folks such as the paleo vegan probably are able to tackle issues like that better than me.
What do you think about that study that I know they talked about it on the Skeptical Guide, where it linked the protein intake in elderly people, as well as specifically animal protein intake, with increased risk of cancer?
Yeah, I saw that. The thing was, the headline they were using was basically just picking out the results for one age group.
Mm-hmm.
The age group above that, they found a slightly protective effect for protein consumption. And so in the end, it was basically a wash. There was when you looked at the study as a whole, there was no difference. And also there are also maybe some issues with not being able to parse out animal and plant protein as well. But yeah, the study was, I feel like, way overhyped and overreported.
I feel that's something that we do. We like to pick pieces out of scientific studies that benefit us.
Do we blame the media more for that, or should it just be lack of people like wanting to educate themselves on the full research?
I think it's a common trait among most people. It's there's confirmation bias. You want to confirm the beliefs that you already have. So if you see your friend share an article where the headline, it supports something you believe, you're probably likely to share it without even reading it.
Yeah.
And even I do that sometimes. And over the years, I've had to train myself more and more to not write things off the cuff, to actually stop and think about what I'm saying or what I'm sharing. And so yeah, I tend not to just share random studies on Facebook as much anymore.
That just reminds me of we had Carl, I cannot pronounce his last name,
from Maximum Tolerated
Dose on, and we were talking about vivisection and the work that, because I don't know if you've seen his documentary that he did.
I've been meaning to see it.
What he was talking about was it's really hard to talk about vivisection because he's not a scientist. He's like, when you have two people that aren't scientists talking about science, it's just one person saying, well, this says this, and the other person saying, well, this says this. They don't really know and understand. And he actually was like very honest about, I choose to believe these scientists because that's easy and beneficial to me because that falls in line with my belief system. I actually really respected that. He was like really open about where that all that comes from.
Yeah. I remember we're doing some protests around vivisection a while back, and I remember actually I went to actually understand what was happening. I went and read papers from that university, and I ended up actually like getting to speak with a couple of the researchers, and obviously, while we, definitely disagreed in the end, I felt that I don't know, talking with researchers both in person and online can be helpful to understand their perspective, and then it can help you to figure out a way to approach it better, because the approach of saying that it's just bad science, that's not going to work. It's not going to convince the majority of folks right now.
You were saying that like early on you were brought towards like Marx and Goldman. Like where do you fall? Like you'd classify yourself politically now, and like what type of writing do you lean towards?
Politically now, that'd be really hard. Up until like a few years ago, like I definitely would have said left-leaning anarchist, pretty much right away. But truthfully, like I feel like gaining more and more interest in skepticism has like tempered that a little bit. I still definitely lean much more towards anarchist and leftist working class politics.
Mm-hmm.
But I find like just knee-jerk anti-statism and anti-corporatism I just can't hang with it anymore. I don't feel that it's necessarily rational. I try to be a little bit more pragmatic these days, but in general, I'm still definitely leaning on the anti-authoritarian side, and definitely towards the anti-capitalist side.
When you said it makes you, maybe I'm misplacing what you're saying. Do you question like anti-corporatism more, or are you more like understanding of it?
It's more that like I now question the knee-jerk anti-corporate reaction that some activists have.
Like just because it's a corporation, they're bad.
Yeah.
Okay,
Such as I'm sure you've seen on my blog, because I blog about GMOs, Monsanto tends to come up, and there's all kinds of like just complete conspiracy theories surrounding them sometimes, just because there's this very strong anti-corporate bias, and there isn't as much of a desire to actually understand what the truth is at all times.
Like I've had this with Monsanto before. Like I'm not a fan of Monsanto, but I tend to fall on the lines of I don't agree with the idea of patenting. I don't agree with how they do that. I don't agree with patenting like living organisms. And I think that's a different way of looking at it instead of just because what am I trying to say? I know a lot of the things that have been said, they get kind of blown out of proportion and misread, and they keep getting quoted and quoted among activists.
Yeah. Well, and then you run into like stuff that goes much deeper, where like Monsanto controls the government or something, when they're actually a relatively small seed company compared to the overall market. But gosh, I forgot where I was going.
So they're not the largest. I
No,
thought they did like 90% of
I
soy
believe
crops and stuff.
I believe BASF is larger right now. But I did want to mention on the patent issue. That's probably the issue I run into the most. And I probably should just write some more about this. But we've been patenting crops since the 1930s.
I still don't agree with it.
I understand that. I just wish maybe activists would. I don't know. I just never hear anything about hybrid crops, or the fact that like crops used in organic agriculture are often patented as well. Just like all those new fancy varieties fruit, like the Plutot.
Yeah.
All those new crosses that are coming out, like all those are under intellectual property protection.
Like I always.
What was that?
Oh, sorry, it was a doorstop got knocked. I always kind of view it like from the idea of keeping things from the people that can help. So like just because you this was created and it can help feed other people, but it's patented, now you have to pay all these fees. It just seems like an inefficient way of benefiting the masses, benefiting the actual people.
I agree. I definitely there's an open source biotechnology movement
Hmm.
that I'm definitely really into. But I feel for many like commercial products, the way our system is set up, like universities, if they want to do a project that's just for charity, basically for charitable work, they still have to patent it so that another corporation doesn't take it from them.
Oh, I mean, I don't fault people for patenting it right now. I think
Yeah.
our whole patent system's really fucked up to begin with. But
Oh no, I agree with that.
it's
I
just,
think we're just kind of stuck in a situation where, 70, 80 years later, um, we've gone down this road for so long. We would really need to overhaul stuff, and
oh, it almost
and
needs to
I
be
think,
scrapped and rewritten, I think.
and especially if we had more public dollars for research, corporate the argument that corporations need to patent this stuff so they have the incentive to create new stuff, that argument would hold a lot less sway.
Oh, I completely agree. Like, research should be for the benefit of everyone, not just for the elite few.
Oh yes.
And that's where my disagreement, really stems from all of that. Um, so what kind of pushes you away from anarchism a little bit? Because I felt myself being pushed away and kind of coming back, not like away like I don't really believe in a lot of the tendencies, but away like some of you are kind of crazy.
For me, it was I I'm very much a utilitarian, and I try to be pragmatic, and so part of it was seeing like a couple speeches by Michael Shermer, a prominent skeptic who's also surprisingly a libertarian, um, and he basically he had a couple presentations where he demonstrated how the state across history has been moving towards more liberal democracy, and that in these cases, or in the cases of those states, that death rates and well-being, or death rates go down, well-being goes up. Basically, for me, it's hard to argue. I'm finding it right now hard to argue against the utility of government in mass society, even though in principle I very much oppose the idea of authoritarianism and such, to the point that I still can't necessarily bring myself to vote in national elections.
Like I totally understand that sentiment because I'm there kind of. Um, but the way I kind of view it is that I don't view anarchism as just. I mean, I totally view it as anti-authoritarian, but I more view it as a way of complete community organization. Like I don't believe in a real anarchist society there wouldn't still be bodies, that the people themselves would be, organizing, which would be a government. Let's just, it is what it is. But I believe it'd be more once you get the corporatism out of it and the a society based on debt out of it, and it's more equally based. That's what I kind of view anarchism as. At least that's my like utopian
I
view of it.
I think nowadays I tend to more just lean towards the idea that it's it's a way of relating to others personally, and also of it's a social tension. There's the number of anarchists in society is relatively small, but we can serve to push society um, towards more libertarian ideals, and towards more anti-authoritarian ideals.
So you're saying like we move the mean over.
Yeah, we're moving the Overton window. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. I'm letting that settle.
Well, why you do that? I was going to ask, what are some ways that people can start to begin to think more critically?
Um, Say read more. Um, I would there's I would recommend going out and getting Carl Sagan's A Demon Haunted World. It's pretty much the best book out there, but on the subject. But in general, like you actually need to actually research and study like logical fallacies and cognitive biases. I mean, the way our brains work is not as straightforward as we think, and you need to be able to understand those first. So for me, it was a long journey in skepticism of just learning all these things. So yeah, I would say it takes a lot of reading.
What are you reading right now?
Right now, I'm actually I'm not in the middle of a book right now, so I'm doing school stuff. But I'm always reading blogs or like the latest like scientific study that came out on fluoride, or yeah.
Do you ever get on Reddit Skepticism subreddit?
I used to get on there a little bit. I've been trying to curb my desire to just endlessly argue on the internet with random people. I feel like if I'm going to do all the work to like research and make a good argument, I might as well like write a whole blog post out of it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, this has actually been a lot of fun. We're actually just a little over an hour now. So, how can people get in contact with you and view your blog?
Well, they can just check out my blog at skepticalvegan.com. They can get in contact with me at my main email, vegan4life007, like James Bond, at yahoo.com. And yeah, if they send me an email through that, or just like leave a comment on the blog, they can usually get in contact with me that way.
Are you on like the tweets and the bookies?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I believe it's just at Skeptical Vegan. And Facebook, I think it's Vegan Jamie. One word.
Awesome. Well, we end every show saying "fuck, shit, damn." Would you mind saying it for us this week?
Fuck, shit, damn.
Awesome.
Sweet, thanks.
Thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, thank you.
Have a good one. This week we heard
Fort Knox 5 blowing up the barrio.
Right now you're listening to
Thievery Corporation. Heaven's gonna burn your eyes.
And as always,
El Comandantes.
Which side are you on? I tried doing it with you. That wasn't
very good.
It wasn't very good. Let's try it one more time. Okay, you ready?
Which side are you on?
That's pretty good. That wasn't bad.
That was
yeah. If you're online right now or have access to a computer, really how the fuck else you're listening to this, go to iTunes, give us 5 stars, write a review for us that just says, "These guys are fucking awesome," and then have a great day.
And if you see a computer like your friends that's on iTunes, go ahead and
subscribe
for us.
If you take a picture of a Go subscription and send it in, or just send us a little message saying, "Hey, go subscribe to somebody," we'll make it worth your while.
Definitely.
Yeah. We are also on the tweets.
So join us on all of our social media.
All our social media sites. We have a new social media intern.
We do.
Cody.
Cody's our new social media intern.
So drop him a line. Tell him to fuck off.
Or say hi.
Or say hi. It's all the same, right?
Yeah.
It's the internet. They say hi by saying fuck off.
It's true.
It's true.
So you can go to whichsidepodcast.com, click on social, and you can find all of our social media accounts there.
They're all there.
All of them.
If you're buying anything online, let's just keep this ad stuff going. If you're buying anything online, we would much appreciate it if you click through our Amazon link on our website, whichsidepodcast.com. And we get a kickback of everything you buy by clicking through there. So if you're going to buy through Amazon, go to whichsidepodcast.com and click through the Amazon link.
Also, if we're gonna continue this,
Yeah,
ad
let's just
stuff,
continue. Let's just continue. Whatever.
our collective is still looking for things off of our wish list that you can find at whichsidepodcast.com.
By clicking through the Amazon link.
Yeah, just click on wish list,
Wish list.
up at the
Amazon
top
link.
and buy our products through Amazon. You will not only be giving us money through the affiliates program, but you will also be getting us shit we need.
It's a double whammy.
Yeah.
Bam, bam.
Badoosh.
How did that one person end their email to us? The Flibish.
Oh, yeah.
Is fuck shit damn in,
Yeah.
I think, German?
I think so.
Yeah.
We got fuck shit damn sent back to us in German. It was pretty funny.
I really like that. I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed that. So,
Fligenschreiben. How do you say it?
I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to say fuck shit damn in German. So,
Scheiße. Scheißen. Fuken Scheißen Dammen.
Fukenscheißen dammen.
That's not right.
No, probably not at all. So we should follow it up with fuck shit damn English, I guess. So fuck shit damn.
Fuck shit damn.
Which Side is produced by the Which Side Media Collective.